Okay, so here is our problem for tonight. Let's look at the map and using terrain association, figure out our location. Remember, the first thing we're going to do is to observe our surroundings. So I'm going to do a 360-degree rotation here. So what are the obvious terrain features we see? First off, this area straight ahead is wetlands. How do I know that? I go off to the left, I'm going counterclockwise, and I'm seeing woods that are pretty dry. And 180 degrees from my first direction, I'm seeing this area here. This is also wetlands. What are the signs that this is wetlands? Off here to my left is this very large hill. Looking to the right, it slopes down very steeply to the right. It rises to a peak, and then it slopes off very, very gradually to the left. Finally, over this larger wetlands, using my hearing, I can hear that there's a road in the distance. It seems to be a fairly busy road, even though we don't see any cars right now. So I'm looking for terrain features that have wetlands on two sides, this hill on the left, and a pretty major road bordering on the wetlands. Where might I be? Now let's make it a little bit easier on ourselves. Let's focus on this road in the distance. There goes a car now. And let's see what the azimuth is from our location. So looking down at my compass, I'm placing the needle, I'm boxing the needle to true north, thus, and I'm reading from the azimuth ring, that road is bearing 300 degrees. So let's make this problem a little easier. Let's assume, as was the case, I was out for 2 hours when I filmed the scenes, and that will restrict our search area. Remember, on the first video, we determined our location to be right about here. Human beings travel at about 2 miles an hour in the wilderness, and so if we were out for about 2 hours, that would reduce our circle of probability to a total of about 4 miles. Now remember these grid lines here, because these are UTM grid lines, that's 1 kilometer from there to there, and a kilometer is about a half a mile. So a 2 mile radius would be 1, 2, 3, 4 kilometers, and that means our search area will be somewhere in this range. I also know that I didn't cross the Charles River, so I know that I'm on this side of the river, and I also know that I'm not in downtown Natick, so I can cross off that area. The primary feature that I'm looking for is wetlands, and on a topographical map, wetlands are depicted using this blue reedy symbol that you see right about. Remember now, the features that we are looking for is an area of an extensive wetlands with a hill to our south and a fairly significant road in the distance. I have positioned this pen so that the range of the pen pretty much depicts our search area. And when I look in this quadrant, I don't see much in the way of wetlands at all, other than this area here, and this area here, and this large area in this section. Let's look at this area first. Here is a hill And if we positioned that hill to our south, that would put us right about here. We would then be seeing a very substantial hill to our north. And remember in our video, we saw woods but not extensive hills. So we're pretty sure we're not in those wetlands. And here is several of the features that jump to mind. This is Elliott Street, and if you look at this, it is a red, it's sort of a checker pattern, and that is an indication that this is a more substantial road than one that is simply a black line. So Elliott Street is a fairly major road, and as we were observing our surroundings, we thought it looked like a fairly major road. Secondly, if we position that road at a 300 degree azimuth, we could be anywhere sort of in this area to the south. And is it possible to position a hill to the south of us with the road at a 300 degree azimuth? And the answer is yes. We see this feature right here, which is a fairly substantial hill. Now look at how these contour lines show up. Notice how compressed they are facing to the west and how spread out they are facing to the east. That means if we take this map and rotate it so that we're basically orienting it to our position, this is what we see. I now have this map. South is now facing up. Remember, the hill that we were looking at was facing south of us, and we observed that to the right it dropped off very sharply, and to the left it dropped off almost an equal amount, but it did so gradually. And we are seeing that in this geographic structure right here. So the final thing is, remember when we looked east we saw wetlands, and here we see the wetland marking, and when we looked west we saw wetlands, and then when we looked north, which on this map, because I've rotated it, would be in this direction, we saw dry land. And these contour lines indicate that the land to the north, or in this case this direction toward the road, is higher, which means it would be dry in comparison to the low-lying wetlands. So using terrain association, I place our position right about here on this map.